God puts us in nations, in places, not by mistake, but to do a job. What if we opened our eyes to the needs of our colleagues, of our leaders, of our subordinates, and we were a priest on their behalf?
My name is Brett Johnson.
I'm Lynn Johnson.
And we'd like to welcome you to the Repurposing Business podcast that will be coming to you each week.
Welcome to Season 6, How to Work Like God in 31 Ways.
Work Like God in 31 Ways, day number 8. Transform for good. Your work should transform things for good. God built into his work continuously improving the state of things. He took a void and turned it into a functioning ecosystem, by way of example. I love the story of the Land Philharmonic Orchestra. This was a school teacher who taught an orchestra, but the orchestra is made up of people who play instruments that are redeemed, built out of trash. What happened was that the workers in a town were sorting through the trash and came through the leftovers of a broken violin, and they fixed it up. And then they thought about making other instruments out of trash, and that's what they began to do. Oboes, strings instruments, all sorts of things. And ultimately, they put together this lovely orchestra. It's a great story. And God is in the business of transforming things for good. Now, to participate with God in this, we have to understand the principle of raw materials. God placed things in the Garden of Eden in a raw material form. And he expected Adam and Eve to figure out how to work with those raw materials, to add value to them, to turn them into something that was more meaningful. So, for example, it said that the gold in that land was good. There were no jewelry stores. There was no rings. There were no earrings, nose rings, anything made out of gold, goblets, plates. The gold was in the ground. And part of the job of Adam and Eve and mankind was to take something in a raw material form and then work as God instructed to turn that something into a finished good. So when you take a raw material and you gather it, you get a commodity. When you work the commodity, you get a finished good. When you build up enough finished goods, you create a market. And when you have a market that's functioning, you produce profits, and the profits create wealth. And that wealth is to be stored up for the blessing of the society and the blessing of nations. So that's a short summary of God's value chain, if you like. Now, nowadays, we have to distinguish between how we collaborate with God in taking a raw material and enhancing it, even ourselves, our own personal improvement. What do we have? Our talents, our capabilities. But the same thing for the people around us, the people we work with. Who knew that you could make silicon out of sand, or that you could make energy out of sunshine? These are examples of taking a raw material and turning it into something of value. Now, just a heads up that sons and daughters of God understand the principle of raw materials and working with God to add value. Slaves are addicted to finished goods. They want handouts. Just give me the donut. Don't teach me how to farm, how to mill, how to bake. Just, let me get the donut at the drive-through is the philosophy of a slave. So if we're to work like God, we'd have to figure out how to work so that we create value. And this is the exciting element of being in collaboration with God. Now, you also have to think through this question. Well, Brett, we have enough products. We've got 40,000 SKUs or stock keeping units in a retail store. Why do we need more things? Well, as long as people have needs and problems, and as long as God remains creator, we have the opportunity to create new products, goods, or services that meet the needs of people. And so that's part of our privilege. I was working with a group in Cape Town, and one of the gentlemen had created amazing products out of a particular raw material. And I told him, God is not done creating yet. Ask God for another product, which he did. And God gave him the product, which is wonderful. And we have many stories like that. So work like God. Transform something from a current state into a better state. It might involve combining some products, changing the process, changing the application of a product. It might not work here, but it works there. Look creatively at everything that's around you and say, how do I transform it for good? How do I work like God?